Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to this quest on how to manage anxiety and depression. In lesson 1, I'm going to be covering the psychoneurobiology, or the mind-brain-body connection. These are 3 different things. So psycho means mind, neuro is brain, and biology is the body. Now, these are 3 separate things, but totally interconnected. So the first thing I'm going to do is help you to understand the difference between the mind and the brain and the body, this psychoneurobiology. You see, where your mind goes, your brain and body follow. Where your mind goes, your life follows. So if we don't know what our mind is and how it drives the brain and the body, an unmanaged mind will mean an unmanaged brain, an unmanaged body, and an unmanaged life. And we don't have to live like that. So let's start by understanding the difference between the mind and the brain. The first prop I have here is a brain, as you can see. And this is not your mind. Most people think that the mind and the brain are the same thing, but they're not. The mind is completely different to the brain. The brain is our physical organ that responds to the mind. So the brain is a responder. It's a reactor. If you're dead, your brain does nothing. It just disintegrates. But the fact that you're actually alive and listening to this quest and learning this information is because of your mind. Your mind is your aliveness, and it drives the brain. So when we die and our mind goes wherever, our brain disintegrates. So the brain without the mind is not doing anything. So the brain can't produce the mind. It can't produce thoughts. It can't produce anything unless you're alive. So your mind is your aliveness that drives the brain, and then the brain responds. And you can control that response, which is so amazing. And that's what you're going to be learning in this quest. So when we talk about things like anxiety and depression, you're going to really understand in this quest what those are and how you can learn to manage them and what they do in your brain and what you with your mind can do to change the impact of anxiety and depression on your brain. Because every experience, including what you're having now, which is learning about this, is an experience that your mind actually filters into your brain and your brain responds. Your brain actually changes structure moment by moment as you are hearing this information and changes the actual structure of the brain, and that's called neuroplasticity. What you're seeing is your mind moving through your brain and your brain responding. So the brain is extremely complex because your mind is extremely complex. So this orange fire light that you see going through your brain is because you are alive. So this is an alive person connected to very advanced brain technology, and their brain is responding to whatever they're thinking about, whatever they're experiencing in that moment. And this is what's happening all day long. Life experiences are being put into your brain by your mind, and then your brain is responding on an electromagnetic, electrochemical, quantum, and genetic level. So you literally take life's experiences and put those into your brain with your mind, and your brain then responds and changes structure, which, as I've mentioned, is called neuroplasticity. And here we can see another view of this, of what happens as you're thinking and feeling and choosing with your mind in response to the life experience. As you think, feel, and choose, it's generating all that activity. And then the last thing to happen in that sequence is a genetic response. And when the genetic response happens, it actually changes the physical structure of the brain, as I mentioned. So what you're looking at now is that physical change. This is literally what is happening in your brain as you are listening to me. This information's going in your brain, that orange fire's kind of set up, and then there's a collapsing of what we call the quantum wave into an action, which you see on the screen, which is little proteins forming that are holding the information in vibrations and growing. So this is happening really fast. You do this at about 400 billion actions per second. So what you're looking at on the screen is a thought. It is the product of the mind, you with your mind interacting with the world. So now the mind has got different divisions. And these divisions are good to understand. In fact, really important to understand, because you'll see how much power you actually have inside of your mind to drive these changes. The biggest part of your mind is the non-conscious. N-O-N, non-conscious. It operates 24/7. It operates at speeds faster than 400 billion actions per second. And it is taking in 100% of your environment. It never sleeps. It is the part of your mind that helps you to respond to life while you're awake and build it into the brain. And it's also the part of your mind that when you're sleeping at night sorts out what you have built during the course of the day in order to actually prepare you for the next day. It's also the part of your mind that searches through all your experiences, finding the ones that are impacting you in a negative way, and push those and literally grabs those experiences, the ones that are the most dominant, that are really worrying you, kind of orders them, and the ones that are stopping you functioning in the best way that you can, those are then literally grabbed by your non-conscious mind and pushed through the second part of your mind, which is the subconscious. So if you think of the non-conscious as this huge forest of all these trees, and each tree represents an experience that you've had. And at this point, there could be trillions of trees in that forest. And your non-conscious mind scans those and finds the trees that maybe don't look as healthy and that are influencing how you are functioning. And it kind of grabs those and pushes those through the subconscious. So the subconscious is like a bridge between the non-conscious and the conscious mind. So when we learn to pay attention to what's coming from our non-conscious through the subconscious, we can actually start changing our mind, to change our brain, to change our body. So for example, if there's something like big intrusive thought that is really blocking how you're functioning, that is what the non-conscious mind will grab, push it through the subconscious into your conscious mind, and your conscious mind then is prompted to become aware of that. And as soon as you are aware of this stuff coming from the non-conscious, you can then do something about it. So these three parts work together. The non-conscious is always working 24/7. During the day helps you build life into your brain and body and mind, and at nighttime sorts out what you've built. The subconscious is a bridge between the non-conscious and the conscious mind. The subconscious and the conscious mind are only awake when you're awake. Otherwise, they're asleep. We can only really fix and change things when we are consciously awake. And so everything I'm going to be teaching you on this quest is going to help you with that. The unconscious mind is a state of mind. So if you are, it's not doing anything. It's basically if you're asleep or if you're under anesthesia or if you've been knocked out by a baseball bat or something, that's the unconscious mind. All of this is based on research that I've done over the past 38 years. And this is a theory that I've developed called the geodesic information processing theory. You do not have to remember this or understand this. I just show you this to show you that what I'm teaching you is based on scientific and clinical research over the past 38 years. So when I talk about mind management, I'm talking about how we can learn to self-regulate what is actually going on in our lives through developing the connection between these different levels of the mind. And we can learn to do that. It's actually quite incredible, but you can train yourself to manage your mind. So it's almost like your mind manages your mind. And that's literally what I'm going to be teaching you to do. We are always changing. Every moment of every day, we are always changing. Your cells are always dividing. You're always making new cells. From the moment of conception, cells started dividing. And even today, even in this moment, you're still making cells. In fact, you are making 800,000 to 1 million new cells every second. And those cells group together to form your organs. Your organs group together to form your body systems. So if that's the case, how you manage your mind is actually driving how those cells divide, the quality of the cell division and the quality of the cells that you make, and therefore the quality of and health of your body. So what we see in the science of psychoneurobiology, which is the mind-brain-body connection, is that if you manage your mind, you are actually learning how to manage your body health, your brain health, and therefore your life. Because how your mind, brain, and body interact then produces how you show up in life. So this is really hopeful because it means that we're not victims of our biology. We can actually overcome our biology. I've done a lot of work and research with people with traumatic brain injuries and autism and severe learning disabilities and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is people that have experienced brain damage from sports injuries and repeated concussions and stroke victims. And I say that to tell you that even with major neurological damage, when you manage your mind, you can regrow and change the structures of your brain and improve the health of your body and therefore improve the health of your life. I'm not saying that it's a simple process at all, and I'm not saying that it's just change your mind and suddenly your brain and body are going to change. It's cumulative over time. It's momentary changes that build and accumulate into lifestyle changes. So with that in mind management becomes essential, and it's an area that we don't pay enough attention to. We can develop the skill of mind management as we are learning how to understand how the mind works. So when it comes to things like depression and anxiety, we are kind of led to believe that depression is a thing and anxiety is a thing, almost like a biological damage to our brain. Now, I'm going to go into this in more depth in one of the other lessons. But for right now, I want to give you a little bit of a better understanding of anxiety and depression and link this back to mind management. Anxiety and depression are not they're not final things, they're not brain diseases, they're not chemical imbalances. Depression and anxiety are emotions. In fact, they're emotional warning signals telling you that something is going on inside of you. You haven't had an experience, or you are having an experience that is throwing you off course. So anxiety and depression are emotional warning signals that are responses to life experiences. And how did you even get to be aware of anxiety and depression? Because of your non-conscious mind. You see, your non-conscious mind was scanning all the experiences of your life that have been built into your mind-brain-body connection. Your non-conscious mind is honestly your best friend. It's on your side. It is searching to find what is holding you back. And then change happens as the non-conscious connects with the conscious mind. Mind management enables you to start tuning in to develop this connection. And so when the non-conscious finds something toxic that's upsetting you and throwing you off course, it pushes it, as I mentioned already, through the subconscious into the conscious mind. And anxiety and depression are examples of how we can consciously become aware of something that's going on in our life. So therefore, instead of seeing anxiety and depression as a problem, see anxiety and depression as messengers that if you embrace them, you can find the message behind the messenger, and you can actually then be empowered to take control over them. And this is what I've shown in my research. So anxiety and depression don't come from a brain disease. And as I said, we'll discuss that in more depth in one of the other lessons. What we see is that anxiety comes from things like trauma and sexual abuse and physical abuse and recent loss of a job and sickness and bullying and social environmental issues and socioeconomic issues, life things that are happening, COVID. These are adverse experiences that we build into our brain and mind and body, and they work against us. So therefore, our non-conscious mind works with the immune system to help us to be able to recognize those. So essentially, think of the immune system as an example. The immune system, we all understand from having gone through COVID and the pandemic and still going through these things and disease management and so on, that when something enters our body, the immune system is activated to go and fight that issue. We all understand that. It builds an immune response by recognizing that there's something wrong and reads what's wrong, and it tries to build little soldiers that fight that. Now we get that, but did you know that your immune system, alongside and along with your non-conscious mind, recognizes the toxic and adverse experiences that you've had in your life in exactly the same way as it would see a pathogen like the COVID virus? So in other words, it responds in the same way. So the non-conscious mind activates a response in the immune system of the brain and body, and then the immune system of the brain and the body go to the site of damage. In this case, it's not a pathogen. In this case, it's an actual toxic experience. It's a physical change in the brain that is dysfunctional. And because this is not good for survival of the body, the immune system of the brain works with the mind to try to fix that. And if we know how to recognize the signals, of which anxiety and depression are two main signals, emotional warning signals, telling us that there's something going on, if we tune into those through mind management, we can then start tracking back and finding the thought that this is coming from, and then we can deconstruct it and reconstruct it. And that's basically the essence of mind management. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit quickly about one of my case studies from a recent clinical trial that I've done. What you're looking at on the screen is what we call head maps from a technology called QEEG, which helps to look at how the unconscious mind is pushing information through the brain and how the brain is responding. And what we want is a gray color, which shows a very balanced flow of energy in the brain, and it means you're managing your mind. And what you see here in the first row, which is at day 1 of this clinical trial, this particular person is very depressed, wanting to give up on life. We see a lot of blue. And so the blue tells us that there's very low energy in the brain. And when there's low energy in the brain, the different parts of the brain don't work well, which means the body's not going to work well. And that was evident in this person's physical health, their mental health, and their sleep patterns, etc. We gave them mind management, and they did mind management over a period of 63 days. At day 21, which was at the first 3-week point, which is the second row, you see that the brain is starting to go gray. So in just 3 weeks of learning to manage their mind, already the balance of energy in the brain had started sorting itself out. And already there were physical changes and sleep improvement and all kinds of things. By day 63, which is the time it takes to rewire thoughts in the brain, doesn't take 21 days. It takes 3 cycles of 21 days, so 63 days. So by day 63, we see a nice stabilized point where this person is no longer saying, I am depressed. They are saying, I am depressed because of the childhood trauma that they went through, which is the reason why they were so depressed, and they'd suppressed it. And they were getting to the point where they weren't frightened of the anxiety and depression. They were seeing it as a messenger. So now what I'd like you to do is an exercise that I'm going to practice with you now, and then you can do this during the course of the week. So the technique that I want you to do is to train yourself to listen deliberately and intentionally with your conscious mind, to listen to the thoughts coming through the subconscious from the unconscious. The unconscious, remember, is your best friend, and it's searching, okay? So we've got to train ourselves. In the busyness of life, we just have all kinds of thoughts coming up. We have about 18,000 to 50,000 thoughts coming up and being built into our brain in any one day. But you can train yourself to tune into those important messengers. So I want you to try and listen to the 5 to 7 thoughts that move through the subconscious in a moment of time. So allocate a moment of time, so a minute or so, or 30 seconds, and just close your eyes and just focus on what is coming up, what thoughts are coming into your conscious mind. And then you open your eyes and then write them down. And then you can repeat that as many times as you want. So as you practice that exercise, you are training yourself to become more tuned in, and setting up a network in your brain that is going to help you be much more aware of the warning signals coming through, attached to the thoughts that are moving from the unconscious through to the subconscious mind. If you can try and find 7 30-second points or 1-minute points during the course of your day for at least 7 days, you will be absolutely astounded at how tuned in you will become to those thoughts that are coming through from the unconscious to the conscious, and start becoming aware of the emotional warning signals attached to them. So I'd love you to go out there and do this 7 times a day at least, for a minute each time. And I'd love you to just share your experiences with the tribe. It'll be fun for you to see what other people are experiencing, and very insightful as well for you. So share with the tribe. And the next lesson, I'm going to be teaching you about what a thought is and how to manage intrusive thoughts.